You've got a camera, you started taking pictures, you started being hired to take pictures. But how do you go from $500 gigs to $25,000 projects? I've been a full-time photographer for 15 years now, and I've done everything from the scrappy shoots in the beginning and headshots to working with major brands like the United Nations, the NFL, and Mayo Clinic. First off, $500 gigs aren't the end of the world, but they can become a trap. They can become a place where you get stuck because you can't do it all alone. When you're doing a $500 gig, you're shooting it, you're producing it. If you're doing video, you're likely doing the audio. You're being undercut on every single level. So if the idea was you have an attention span of 1 to 100, and all of those tasks require 100% attention, and you have 5 tasks to do: producer, director, cinematographer, audio, grip and lighting. If each one of those is a full job in itself, meaning it requires 100% attention, and you're doing all 5 of them, that means you're only giving each job 25% attention. That's the easiest way I can illustrate what I'm talking about. These jobs usually come from individuals, small businesses, people who know that they need to be on social media but don't actually know what they want or what that takes. And they don't actually understand what they're buying and why that's valuable to them. The trap happens when your referral network gets stuck in that zone. You do a job for person A, and they love it, and they refer you to person B, who happens to be in their network. Now, person B hires you for the same rate that person A hired you for. And now person C and person D and E and F. And now all of a sudden you've created 30 jobs for you this year that don't actually move the needle of your business from a financial standpoint. The biggest thing I can say is that if you want to make the leap from a technician, which is really what a $500 gig is, you're a person with a camera and you're pushing a button, to someone who is considered a creative partner and they're hiring you for what you do, for what your vision is. If you want to make that leap, you have to stop thinking about yourself like a freelancer and start thinking about yourself as a strategic partner. You are a creative collaborator in producing these images and visuals for these companies to sell their business. You are there to sell their business. And the more you can become a creative partner, the more valuable you are to that client. So when a brand hires you for $25,000, what are they actually paying for? In my opinion, they're buying emotional storytelling, brand elevation, they're buying speed, professionalism, and consistency. And most importantly, I think they're buying trust. I think they trust that you can deliver the kind of images that they need to be able to put in front of their current and future clients. And they're buying trust from their audience because their audience sees these images. You've done a good job. You've portrayed them in the right light. And you start to build trust between that potential client and that business. The first step is building a portfolio that is worthy of a $25,000 job. What does that mean? Your images have to be clean, consistent, and you have to do it over several projects. That doesn't mean that they all need to be the same type of image, but you have to demonstrate an ability in multiple scenarios to produce the same kind of high level work. Every image should say, I understand people, I understand brand, and I understand storytelling. The next thing is changing how you think about yourself. You're not a photographer, you're a creative partner. You're someone that has a visual aesthetic that you have now demonstrated you can repeat over and over again in multiple scenarios. And you're someone that can mold that aesthetic around the business's end goals. So, how do you become a creative partner? You ask the right questions, you create a vision, you do mood boards, you present ideas, you become a collaborative partner. Now, you're no longer just pushing the button, you're shaping the direction of these images. So, what are some of the ways that we can demonstrate that ability? You have discovery calls, you have pre production meetings, you have mood boards, you have conversations that are less about what you want and more about what you need. I think that's a big one for me. All the time, clients call me and they need everything. They need to be on social. They need images for their website. They need billboard. They need broadcast. They need. But what are we actually creating? Creating a library of images is very different than creating a specific vision. So I went and made a list. So, what does a $25,000 job look like? It could be creative fee for $8,500. It could be licensing and usage for $6,000. It could be production, which includes gear, crew, locations, permits, craft services, travel. Could be $7,000. Post production could be $3,500. And that's how quickly you become a $25,000 project. A good example of that is when I had started, I was charging $800 for my day rate. I was the director, the DP, the audio technician, and lighting and gaffing. So I would show up, I would have my giant cart with all of my things. I was a one-man band. I did the whole thing. And my stuff was pretty good. It was pretty good. The client was definitely getting more than they were paying for. And I was able to make a living for a while before I just burn out and was tired and exhausted and overworked, and things were starting to suffer. The the images that I was creating were good enough, but they weren't great. My lighting was good enough, but it wasn't great because I was so busy doing so many things on set. But I had consistent business. Then I started charging. I started charging for an audio technician. I started charging for an extra set of hands to be my gaffer. I started charging for the equipment that I was bringing and tearing up. And I went from $5,500 projects to $12,000 projects. And the problem is that I was now too expensive. At $5,500, I was expensive, but worth it for what the client was getting. At $12,000, I was too expensive. My visuals didn't hold up. My client pool wasn't capable or prepared to pay that. So everything needed to change. I needed to invest in myself and I needed to invest in my portfolio. And that's really it. It really is that simple. Create a clean, professional portfolio that demonstrates that you can repeat this work over and over again across multiple scenarios and market yourself to high value clients. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. This channel is meant to be a conversation. It's a dialogue between you and me. And I'm sharing what I know, and I would love to hear what you know. So tell me what you've done to help move you up in price points over the years, or tell me where you're struggling. I'd love to help however I can. Until the next one.